The Galactic Empire ruled most of the known galaxy. For over 1,000 years, they had discovered hundreds of alien races. Most were weak. Some were smart. None were a threat. The Empire believed they had seen everything. They were wrong. It started with a signal. A small probe traveling near the edge of the galaxy picked it up. It was weak, full of strange sounds and voices. At first, the Empire thought it was just noise. But one officer, a young communication expert named Varn, noticed something. The signal had structure, it repeated. It had language. The signal came from a small planet, blue and green with a single moon. A world the Empire had ignored for years. It was called Earth. Varn told his commander. The commander laughed. "Another primitive world," he said. "They are probably just learning radio." But still he sent a scout ship to check. The ship ISS Spearlight was small, fast, and well-armed. It arrived in the solar system after a few days. The crew expected nothing special. They were wrong, too. As they entered Earth's orbit, more signals came. Strange music, voices, even pictures. But one message stood out. It was short, clear, and sent directly to the ship. Just one word. "Run." The crew went silent. Captain Ralek, a battle-hardened officer, frowned. "Is this a threat?" he asked. "Or a warning?" No one knew. They had never seen such behavior before. Most alien races begged for peace or cried when they saw the Empire's ships. But these humans, they didn't sound afraid. Their voices were calm. Cold. Ralek ordered a scan of the planet. The ship's sensors showed cities, roads, machines, billions of life forms. But no space fleet, no planetary shields, no heavy weapons in orbit. "They're defenseless," said the weapons officer. "Why would they tell us to run?" The science officer, Sarah, looked deeper. "Something doesn't feel right," she said. "They're not afraid. They knew we were coming." Captain Ralek looked at the message again. He played it over and over. The voice was not loud, not angry. It was almost polite. But the word carried power. "Run." He contacted the Empire's command center. They asked for a full report and told Ralek to stay in orbit and observe. No action. No contact, just watch. So they watched. They saw humans going about their daily lives, working, laughing, driving, playing. They showed no fear, even though a giant alien ship was floating above them. Some humans even waved at the cameras. "This is not normal," said Sarah. "They should be scared." Then another message came. This one had a video. A human in a dark suit stood in front of a black screen. He spoke clearly, looking straight into the camera. "You found us," he said. "But before you act, listen. This is your only warning. Run." Then the screen went black. The crew felt a strange fear. Not from the humans' technology, not from their weapons, but from their confidence, their silence. Sarah whispered, "What? Are they hiding?" Ralek stood up. He felt something he hadn't felt in years. Uncertainty. "We don't act yet," he said. "I want to know everything about these humans." That night, Ralek sat alone in his quarters. He listened to the human message again. He had fought many wars. He had seen planets burn. But never had a simple word shaken him so deeply. Run. Why would humans say that? Why didn't they beg? Why didn't they fight? Why did they act like they knew something the Empire didn't? Something was coming. Something hidden. And Ralek knew. This mission was no longer simple. It was the beginning of something dangerous. Something that might change the galaxy forever. The Empire's command center received the report from the scout ship quietly. Most officers there believed the mission would be boring. A small, simple planet sending odd signals. Nothing to fear. But the message "run" caught their attention. A second ship was sent. Bigger, with more experts. They were told not to attack, not to scare, just to study the humans. 2 ships now floated above Earth watching. From orbit, Earth looked peaceful. Clouds moved slowly over the blue oceans. Lights blinked in the dark as night passed across cities. There was no panic, no global alarm, no emergency signals. Humans continued with life as if nothing had happened. Inside the second ship, a team of alien researchers worked all day and night. They listened to human music. They watched human videos. They tried to learn the language faster. One researcher named Linux watched a strange video. A human sat at a table speaking calmly into a camera. "If you're watching this," the human said, "then you've come from the stars. Welcome. But before you explore more, remember this. Not everything we have is easy to see." The message ended. Linux paused the video. "What does that mean?" he asked. The human's voice wasn't scared or proud. It was quiet. Sure, other crew members found more videos. In each one, the humans gave strange warnings. Some said, "You came too early." Others said, "You should turn back." None of them explained why. Every message felt like it was hiding something. Captain Rollick was also watching. He looked at maps of Earth, read reports, and listened to messages. Something kept bothering him. The calm. Humans knew aliens were above their world. Yet they did nothing. No protests, no threats, no welcomes either. Just quiet messages and daily life. One day, the first human ship was seen. It was small, not a fighter. It looked like a transport ship. It left Earth's surface slowly, flew a short circle around the planet, and landed again. A simple flight. But it was done in full view of the Empire's scout ships. They were showing something. "They're not weak," Linux said. "They just don't care about showing off." Sarah, the science officer, had another thought. Or maybe they don't need to. This idea made the room silent. The Empire always believed in strength, power, control. But the humans didn't show fear or strength. They showed control without needing to prove it. A message came again. This time not from Earth, but from the moon. It was short. "You're still here," Rollick read it twice. "They're watching us," he said, "from the moon." The sensors scanned the moon carefully. At first, they found nothing. But after deep scanning, they saw something strange. Structures hidden under the surface. Not natural, not recent, old, silent, waiting. The Empire's researchers ran more tests. "These are human-made," one expert said, "but not from any known time." The question spread fast. How long have humans been building things in space? Suddenly, Earth didn't look small anymore. It looked prepared. Back on Earth, humans started sending music into space. Not war music, not warnings, just soft, quiet sounds. It felt like a test. A calm before something bigger. Inside the Empire's ships, the crew grew nervous. They didn't say it aloud, but everyone felt the same thing. Humans were not surprised. They were ready. Linux shared a final note with Rollick. "There's something in human history," he said. "They've faced destruction before, many times. But they always survive. They always return stronger." Rollick nodded slowly. "And we thought they were just another planet." Nobody knew what would happen next. But one thing was clear now. The humans were not warning out of fear. They were warning because they had already seen what comes next, and they knew what the Empire didn't. The Empire's command was no longer quiet. Leaders gathered in large rooms. Advisors whispered. Maps of Earth and its moon glowed on giant screens. Strange questions now filled the air. Who really were these humans? Why did they act like they already knew the Empire? And most important, why weren't they reacting like anyone else? On board the second ship, Linux studied Earth's languages. He began reading human books, their history, and their stories. What he found was strange and troubling. "They've written about us," Linux told Captain Rollick one day. Rollick raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Linux turned the screen. "Look here. These are stories from hundreds of years ago. Humans imagined us. They called us aliens. They spoke about visitors from the stars. Some stories warned people not to trust visitors from space." Rollick leaned closer. "So they expected us?" "Maybe not exactly us, Linux said, but they dreamed of this day, over and over again. Sarah added something else. It's possible. They've been preparing for something greater. Not just science, not just technology, but understanding. They seem to know what kind of danger can come from space. Rollick looked at the quiet blue planet below. The more they learned, the less they understood. Another message came. This one was different. It was not a warning. It was an invitation. The message simply said, "Come and see." After days of waiting, the humans finally spoke clearly. The invitation included coordinates, an empty field near a forest far from any city. The humans offered no meeting hall, no group of leaders, no celebration, just a quiet place under the open sky. Rollick met with his officers. Some thought it was a test. Others feared a trap. Rollick listened, then said, "We go, carefully, no weapons. We follow their way." He selected only 3 crew members to join him, Linux, Sarah, and one silent observer, a recorder of events. The small shuttle left the large ship and floated toward Earth. The field appeared just as described. Green grass, tall trees, clear skies, no signs of people, no buildings, but someone was there. One human, an older man in simple clothes. He stood calmly, hands behind his back. He looked up as the shuttle landed. Rollick and his team stepped out. The human smiled gently. "Welcome," he said. No fear, no questions, just quiet confidence. Rollick stepped forward. "You invited us?" "Yes," the human replied. "You've been watching, but now it's time to see." Linux asked, "See what?" The human looked at the sky. "What we are." He turned and walked toward the trees. Without speaking, the crew followed. They walked through a narrow path. Birds chirped. Leaves moved in the wind. It felt peaceful, but also strange, as if something waited just beyond sight. The human led them to a hidden place, a circle of stones. In the center was a small device. It was glowing softly. Sarah looked closer. "This is not from Earth," she whispered. The human nodded. "No, it's not." "Where did you get it?" Linux asked. The man smiled again. "We didn't get it. We found it. A long time ago." Rollick stepped forward. "So you've known about space travel?" "We've known about many things," the man replied. "Some of them before we were ready. Some of them we still don't fully understand. But we remember, and we prepare." The words felt heavy, almost too calm for what they meant. Sarah stared at the device. It was old, but far beyond human tech. "This is ancient, even by galactic standards." The man nodded once. "It's a memory, a lesson, one our ancestors left behind when they vanished." Linux whispered, "Who were they?" The man looked straight at him. "They were like you, curious, proud, fast to explore, but they didn't listen when they were warned." Rollick felt his heart slow. The humans had a past they didn't talk about in books, a past the Empire knew nothing about, a past that might include more than one species. The human stepped back. "You thought we were alone, that we were just starting. But the truth is, we were waiting." "Waiting for what?" Rollick asked. The human looked at the sky again. "For someone to ask the right question." Rollick stood still. The air felt heavier now. His team said nothing. Even Linux, who always had something to say, kept quiet. The human's last words echoed in his mind. "We were waiting for someone to ask the right question." Rollick stepped forward, slow and steady. He looked at the small glowing device again, then at the man. "What is the right question?" The man gave a small smile, like a teacher waiting for a student to think deeper. "That," he said gently, "depends on what you fear most." Sarah glanced at Rollick. "Captain, maybe this is more than just a meeting." The man turned, pointing toward the stones around them. "These are not just decorations. Each stone holds a story, not written in any language, but in memories." Touch. 1. Linux stepped forward, unsure. He placed his hand on the nearest stone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his eyes widened. He stumbled back, gasping. I saw something, a ship, huge, flying over planets. Then silence. So much silence. The man nodded. That was the end of the first ones. Rallick asked. The first what? Explorers, the man answered. They came before us, before you. Their ships moved faster than light. Their minds were sharp. But they believed they were safe, just because they were advanced. And what happened to them? Sarah asked quietly. They didn't listen when they were told to turn back. A deep silence followed. The Empire had always believed it was the first to explore this part of the galaxy, the strongest, the most curious. But these humans, with their quiet words and hidden memories, knew more. Linux asked, Are you saying there's something out there? Beyond us? Beyond even the Empire? The man sat down on a large stone and looked up at the sky again. You're used to meeting new worlds. You scan them, study them, judge them. But sometimes, something might be watching you back. Sarah's eyes narrowed. You mean Earth has been watched too? Yes, the man said. For a very long time. He pulled a small device from his coat and placed it next to the glowing object. A soft light appeared in the air. A hologram. Not human. Not from any known race. It showed a map of stars. Then one of the stars blinked red. Rallick leaned in. What is that? That's where the first explorers vanished. Sarah whispered. That's close to our last deep-range mission. The man looked at her. And did your crew return the same? No one answered. The Empire's last exploration ship had come back weeks late. The crew didn't speak much. After, some even left the fleet. No clear records were ever shared. Rallick asked, Why are you telling us this now? Because, the man replied, you've reached a door. And doors are not just for opening. Some must stay closed. The Empire's crew didn't know what to say. Every answer led to more questions. Rallick finally asked, What do you want? From us? The man stood up slowly. Not much, he said. Just remember this moment. When the time comes, don't be the ones who ignore the warning. Linux asked, So the word run, it wasn't about us? The man gave a quiet nod. No, it was never about you. It was a message for what might follow you. Rallick felt cold inside. A message had been sent through space. The first word humans shared with the Empire had been simple. One word, run. But maybe, just maybe, they weren't warning the Empire. They were warning something else. Something still out there. Something that hadn't arrived yet. The human took a few steps back. The Empire believes in maps and machines. But some answers come only when you stop looking outside and start listening inside. Then he walked away back into the trees, no guards, no ships, just quiet footsteps fading into the forest. Rallick stood in the circle of stones, unsure what to believe. Linux broke the silence. Captain, what do we do now? Rallick looked at the sky. We prepare, and we listen. And far above, the stars kept blinking, some calm, some red, waiting, watching. The next few days on the Empire ship felt strange. The usual hum of engines and the steady rhythm of life in space were now overshadowed by a feeling that couldn't be shaken. Every crew member felt it, the quiet unease that hung in the air. Rallick paced the bridge, his mind running through everything he had learned from the humans. Their simple words, the warning they had given, the map they had shown. There were still so many unanswered questions. His mind kept going back to the humans' last words. Some answers come only when you stop looking outside and start listening inside. Rollick wasn't sure what that meant, but it felt like a message he couldn't ignore. What was it they had seen that he hadn't? And why had the human left him with more questions than answers? He stared out the large window at the blue planet below, Earth, with its shining oceans and vast continents. It looked peaceful from here, but Rollick couldn't shake the feeling that something was hiding just beneath the surface. He turned to his crew. "Prepare a deep-range scan," he said, his voice calm but firm. "We need to check the stars around us. We've missed something. We need to know what it is." Lennox glanced up from his station. "Captain, are you sure?" The last scan covered everything for hundreds of light years. "Do it anyway," Rollick replied. "We've missed something, and we need to know what." The crew went to work. The hum of machinery filled the air as the scanners began their sweep. But as the minutes passed, a strange sense of dread filled the room. The ship's systems were detecting something faint, hidden deep in space. Sarah, sitting at her station, leaned forward. "Captain, you need to see this." Rollick walked over to her, his heart quickening. She pointed to the screen. A small flicker of light appeared in the distance, far beyond the stars they had just mapped. It wasn't much, just a tiny, barely noticeable signal. But it was there, and it wasn't natural. "It's a pattern," Sarah said. "Not random. Someone is out there, and they're moving toward us." Lennox joined them. "That signal, it's like it's been following us." Rollick stood frozen. The message from the humans suddenly made more sense. Run. Not just a warning for the Empire, but a warning for what was still out there. "Get me the communication codes for Earth's High Command," Rollick ordered, his voice steady but filled with urgency. Sarah quickly typed in the request. "They'll be able to get the message faster than we can. We don't know what's coming, but we need to warn them." Rollick nodded, his eyes never leaving the flickering signal on the screen. He had always trusted the power of the Empire's ships, their weapons, their technology. But now, for the first time, he felt unsure. For the first time, the Empire didn't seem so invincible. "We've been looking for answers in the wrong places," Rollick muttered to himself. "We were warned. We didn't listen. And now, something is coming." Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. The scanners went dark for a moment. Then, as quickly as it had gone, everything returned to normal. Lennox looked at Rollick, his face pale. "Captain, something just blocked our scanners. It was like it knew we were watching." Rollick clenched his fists. "Something's here, and it's not just watching, it's waiting. But waiting for what?" The crew worked in silence, each feeling the weight of the unknown pressing in on them. Time seemed to slow as they waited for confirmation from Earth's command. Every moment felt like it could be the last. Finally, a message came through. "Captain," Sarah said quietly, "Earth is requesting a full report." Rollick took a deep breath. He wasn't sure what to say. How could he explain what they had seen? How could he tell Earth that the humans had warned them, but they still didn't know what to expect? But then the message turned from a request to something more. A new signal. This one even closer than the last. A warning from Earth itself. "We are receiving strange signals from deep space," the message said. "It matches the pattern you described. We've found something." Rollick's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" The response came quickly. "We don't know yet, but whatever it is, it's coming, and it's not friendly." The room fell silent. For the first time since the Empire had ventured into space, it wasn't the unknown that terrified them. It was the fear that they had underestimated something far more dangerous than anything they had ever imagined. The crew stared at the screens, at the patterns growing ever closer, the silence louder than any noise they had ever heard. Rollick knew one thing now. They were not alone in the universe, and something had been watching them, waiting for a very long time. Rollick's hands tightened around the console. The message from Earth had shaken him. It wasn't just the signal. It wasn't just the warning. It was the fear in Earth's voice, the same fear he felt growing in his chest. "What are we dealing with?" Lennox asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Raleigh turned to face the crew. His mind raced. The pattern of the signals, the warning from the humans, the deep silence that had followed the disappearance of the first explorers, all of it pointed to something they weren't prepared for. "We don't know yet," Raleigh answered, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "But whatever it is, it's moving closer. We need to figure out how to respond." He walked toward the main window of the ship, staring at the vast expanse of space. Stars twinkled like distant memories. They had once been symbols of hope and adventure, but now each one felt like a reminder of something darker. "We've faced unknowns before," Sarah said, her voice calm but strained. "But this is different. This is not just another star system. This is something waiting for us." Raleigh nodded, his eyes still fixed on the stars. "And we don't know what it wants. But the humans warned us. They didn't just tell us to run because they were scared. They told us to run because they knew something we didn't." The room was silent. The crew stood frozen, each lost in their own thoughts. "What do we do now?" Lennox asked. Raleigh's gaze shifted to the control panel. He knew they had only a limited time to act before whatever was out there reached them. They couldn't just sit and wait. They had to make a move. But what move? "We prepare," Raleigh said firmly. "We don't know exactly what's coming, but we know we need to be ready. Start scanning the surrounding systems. Look for any signs, anything out of place. We need to gather as much information as we can." Sarah nodded. "On it, Captain." But Raleigh's mind wasn't on the scans. He couldn't stop thinking about the humans, about their strange and cryptic message. Some answers come when you stop looking outside and start listening inside. What did that mean? Why had the human left them with only pieces of the puzzle? He turned back to his crew. "The humans knew something we didn't. They knew we weren't the only ones out here. And if we keep ignoring what they tried to warn us about, we're going to make the same mistake the first explorers made." Lennox stared at Raleigh. "You really think we're on the edge of something bigger than us?" Raleigh's eyes met his. "I know we are." Minutes passed like hours as the crew worked in silence. The tension was thick, almost suffocating. The hum of the ship was the only sound, a constant reminder of how alone they were in the deep void of space. Suddenly, the main scanner lit up again. A new signal. This one was different, stronger. Sarah's voice broke the silence. "Captain, there's something new. It's not just a flicker anymore. It's a constant signal. And it's getting stronger." Raleigh quickly walked to her side. He stared at the screen, his heart pounding. The signal was distinct now, steady, rhythmic, and growing in intensity. The same pattern they had seen before, but now it felt more deliberate. "The signal is directed at us, Captain," Sarah said, her voice filled with urgency. "It's almost like it's trying to communicate." A cold chill ran down Raleigh's spine. "Communicate with us?" Lennox stepped forward, his brow furrowed. "But we're not sending anything back. Why would it want to talk to us?" Raleigh felt a knot tighten in his stomach. "I don't know. But I have a feeling that whatever it is, it's closer than we think." Another message blinked onto the screen. This one was from Earth. "They've found something," Sarah read aloud. "A massive anomaly near the edge of the solar system. It's not natural." Raleigh felt a surge of panic. "It's too close," he muttered. "We need to prepare to leave." But before he could say anything else, the ship trembled. A sudden jolt threw everyone off balance, and the alarms blared across the ship. "Report!" Raleigh shouted. Lennox was the first to react. "The anomaly. It's shifting. It's moving." The ship shook again, harder this time. The stars outside the window seemed to shift, as if the universe itself was warping around them. The signal, the same rhythmic pattern, was now vibrating through the entire ship, sending strange echoes through the walls. "What's happening?" Sarah gasped. Raleigh's mind raced. "It's happening, it's here, it's already here." The screens blinked again, showing the anomaly now much closer. It was massive, far bigger than any ship or station they had ever seen. A swirling mass of energy, a storm of light and darkness shifting and bending. Rollick turned to his crew, his voice low and urgent. "Get ready. We don't know what's coming, but we're about to find out." The ship shook again, harder this time, and then silence. The screens went dark, and then in the silence of the deep, empty void of space, the stars began to flicker. Not like before, but like something had begun to watch.